Welcome to Verbal Pick Radio, where we give you a verbal image of life, and we are everyday people. Like to welcome you all to the show. Look, it's early, not early Sunday morning, but it's Sunday morning around 9:30 a.m. and went to sleep last night, right, and left my television on. So I woke up and it was on CBS, their Sunday morning program discussing James Wormley of the Wormley Hotel, right? Why that's significant? Well, James Wormley was the hotel that they used to do the Compromise of 1877. The Compromise, first James Wormley was a black man. Now check this out. They went to a black man's hotel and compromised black people. Wow. Now, why am I saying this, right? Because I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe there's going to be another compromise of 2020 after this election with Donald Trump and Joe Biden, right? But before we get into that, I want to bring you all up to speed on several different compromises that was used in America and in regards to black people, right? Then we also want to show how what Malcolm said when he stated, you've been hoodwinked, you've been run amok, that we've been had. Black people are the gold of America. We always get, we are the trading that they use in America. Hell, even the stock market was designed after stocks and bonds on the sale of slaves. We are America, but we are a played part of America. We've been played. We've been had. We've been had by some of our leaders. We've been had by a lot of things and a lot of people that's been taking place in this country. You know, they got us good. But it's up to us, though, to break that. It's up to us to define who we are. We have to stop being used as a pawn in their game. We're the pawn. We get shuffled around the board. Decisions are made based upon us. You have Ice Cube's contract with Black America, which I believe, which I fear they might use that doctrine to create the compromise of 2020. I don't know. But look, we're finna break this down, right? Now, the real birth of a nation was created in 1790, right? Well, not the real birth. Well, the real birth of a nation was created in 1790. It was basically came from the Compromise of 1790. 1790, put it like this, was the real birth of a nation. The other birth of a nation was a movie that they put out later on, right? You know, but this was the birth of a nation. This was the first federal Congress, right? Now, this the Compromise of 1790. I got to read this to you, right? Then we'll break that down, right? This was the first one of how black folks got played, right? First, it states that the Congress shall have power to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers and all other powers vested by the Constitution and the government of the United States, right? And it's not long. The Compromise of 1790 was the first of three great compromises made by the North and South every 30 years in an attempt to keep the Union together and prevent civil war. Hamilton, Madison, and Thomas Jefferson, with the backing of Washington, arranged the terms which resulted in passage of the Residence Act in July and the Funding Act in August. Central to the compromise was a bargain by which several Southerners agreed to change their votes and support assumption if Congress would first pass a bill locating the capital city of the United States on the Potomac River after a 10-year temporary residence at Philadelphia, meaning the first capital was in Philadelphia. Philadelphia was basically ran by the Moors. It didn't have any, it wasn't a slave state, right? That also coincides with the Sundry Act of 1790. So look that up. SUNDRY 1790. SUNDRY Act, ACT 1790. Look that up. This carried the strong implication that the North would not raise serious objections to the institution of slavery. To you the pawn. I'm going to show you how you the pawn. They want to remove the capital from Philadelphia to Washington because Virginia and Maryland, Washington was slaveholder states. We want to remove it out of Philadelphia, which was not a slaveholding state. But if we do that, then we'll turn our back to slavery and what's going on, right? Read that to you once again so you can see that I'm not making it up, right? All right. They said if Congress would first pass a bill locating the capital city of the United States on the Potomac River after a 10-year temporary residence at Philadelphia, this carried the strong implication that the North would not raise serious objections to the institution of slavery, right? Now, the North, you had the South, the North. The South was the Dixiecrats. The North was Republicans. The South saying, okay, we'll go along with you all to remove the capital from Philadelphia to Washington, but don't get involved in what we're doing down here with these slaves. They said, okay, done deal. Let's work that out because you always been the bargaining chip, black folk. Okay. Although political leaders knew that the difference between North and South would long plague the Union, they hoped they had found an undissoluble bond, a democratic empire fueled by Northern financial and commercial capitalism, with its capital in the agrarian slave-holding states. As the turbulent second session closed, Congressmen as well as the press urged Americans to support the compromise. During the third session, Congress passed several laws confirming its terms. Let me show you this, right? As the turbulent second session closed, Congress, right, as well as the press, right, they urged the American people to support this compromise, saying, yeah, we want to take the capital out of Philadelphia, move it to D.C., but the South saying we'll only go along with that if you get out of our business with the institution of slavery. And the North was like, okay, well, we can get this capital over here. I don't give a damn what you do with the black folks. Compromise. This is 1790. See, we still getting compromised today. But that was just one. That was one, right? That's 1790, right? Now, we're going to move into the compromise of 1850, right? Because we the bargaining chip, man. We in America, look, America is the chessboard game, right? And black folks the pawn that just get slid around this game, right? And the pawn don't realize the fact that, you know what, let me just get up and walk the hell off the board and separate and go build my own thing, leave these idiots alone. But, that's a topic for another podcast. But let me finish the compromise of 1850, right? The compromise of 1850 was made up of 5 bills that attempted to resolve disputes over slavery and new territories added to the United States in the wake of the Mexican-American War, 1846 to 1848. It admitted California as a free state, left Utah and New Mexico to decide for themselves whether to be a slave state or a free state, defined a new Texas-New Mexico boundary and made it easier for slave owners to recover runaways under the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. The Compromise of 1850 was the mastermind of Whig Senator Henry Clay and Democratic Senator Stephen Douglas. Lingering resentment over its provision contributed to the outbreak of the Civil War. We know the Whig Party later became the Republican Party. Same thing, right? But look, that was the compromise. Again, it was a land dispute. But okay, y'all can do this land dispute and remove these boundaries as long as y'all pass an act so we can catch runaway slaves, which was the birth of the police department, right? And they did the same thing to the runaways that they caught to black men today who's just going about their business and getting badly beaten by police as they did in 1850 was the birth of the police department in America, because it came from tracking down and catching runaway slaves, and it just formulated into what we all know today as the police department. And they say, and so they'll say, well, the police department it's not racist. There's no systemic racism in America, as the new executive order that President Trump put out on September 22nd, 2020. See, we black folk, what you fail to realize is this election 2020 and everything that's taking place, we getting ready to get compromised again, right? That's what I'm saying. Well, okay, we not through though. This was the compromise of 1850, right? Now let's get into the compromise of 1877 that took place secretly, right? Now what happened was, I believe his name was Tilden and Hayes couldn't settle a dispute on who actually won the presidency, like Biden and Trump going through right now, or supposedly after November 3rd. So the Democrats was like, well, look, Tilden, you going up to D.C. and take the oath of office and just swear yourself in. He didn't do it. Hayes was like, no, I'm the winner. So they going back and forth. So before the inauguration, they had a secret meeting, right? Quietly, secret meeting, right? It's not on the documents, but it was quiet. It was a quiet meeting, right? At a black man's hotel, James Wormley, right? This is 1877, right? Now, James Wormley, he was born free. Why? I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe when his ancestors that they traced back was Moors. So he was born free. If you go back again and read the Sundry Act of 1790, Sundry Act of 1790 with the Moors, you will see how that could be possible, right? Because he was born in 1819. So you can see how he was born free, and how a lot of black people, especially if you're in Texas and Louisiana, your folks didn't do any slave, wasn't born into slavery. But the Caucasian was so cold to where he couldn't tell a free black from a slave black, a free Native American from a slave Native American. So he just created that system of white supremacy to where if you're not white, then you all would be treated like slaves. You might not have been born into slavery now, and your people might not have been slaves, but you can't. But you are a melanated being, so we're gonna treat all y'all like slaves. Unless you got some papers, or unless we in a court of law and you got papers and you can prove who you are. But just outside of the courts and in everyday life and out here walking on these streets, we're not going to take the time to make any differences between who's free and who's not. Okay, that's what that was about. So the Compromise of 1877 was an unwritten deal and formally arranged among U.S. congressmen that settled the intensely disputed 1876 presidential election. It resulted in the United States federal government pulling the last troops out of the South and formally ending the Reconstruction era. Right. Because the Reconstruction era was black folks starting to rebuild. You had blacks in Congress, black senators, black towns, blacks moving again, re-rolling. That was a slap in the Dixiecrats, Democrats, South face. That's why you had them destroy the first Black Wall Street in Oklahoma, right? 1921. And so they said, okay, I tell you what. Hayes, we'll concede, right? We'll say you won the 1876 presidential election. Only, here we go again, because we the bargaining chip, we the pawn. Only if you all remove the federal troops, because after the Civil War, the federal troops was protecting black people, right, from the South, right, as Reconstruction was building, it's growing, we moving. They agreed to it. See, they worked together. Okay, I tell you what, because we the bargaining chip. They said, I tell you what, we'll take our troops out of here, and y'all have what the blacks ask y'all will, because we don't give a damn. Hell, it's up to God to save them. We ain't in that kind of business. We just about capital, making money. And if blacks find a way to make money and get involved, we not the money green. That's the Republic. We'll take the money because your money green, but your best interest is not. We're not vested in your best interest. Put it like that. And so they remove the federal troops from the South, and then now here you got the Night Riders, and you got the Klan, and you got black folks being hung, and it was back on again, right? So that's why I say we always compromised. We've been compromised since 1790. First compromise, 1850, the second compromise, 1877, the third compromise, and we with a bargaining chip. It was always like, okay, we want this. And the South was always like, well, okay, Democrats was like, okay, well, I tell you what, you can have what you want just as long as we have close ties and rule over blacks in America. That's all the Democrats want. That's why when you see black people saying, well, damn, we've been with the Democrats for so many odd years and it's nothing changed because it's not supposed to change. You just there for the bargaining chips. Then you look to the Republicans and you like, hey man, y'all were, what you in office, where's the protection? The Republicans like, what do you mean protections? We're about making money, want to make some money. Then just come on and let's see what you can do. But as far as us coming out trying to protect you and tell you what you need to do and educate you and treat you fair, and that's between you and God. That ain't we ain't got nothing to do with that. You know what I'm saying? You need to go talk to your Democratic buddies over there who all the preachers and the black Christians are so connected and tied to, and see whatever you all can work out with the Dems. You know what I'm saying? But your interest is not our concern. You on your own, partner. And that's where black folks stands in America. We own our own, and we constantly the bargaining chip. So I understand when Brother Ice Cube put out the contract with Black America, because here we are again. We're in the center of this thing. But this time around, well, let's put a contract to it. Why? Because I've learned in recent, business ventures, right? Because I like the old way, right? I got to admit, I like looking a person in the eye and they word was they bun, and we look each other in the eye and say, okay, I'm going to do this, you're going to do that. Shake hand on the deal, right? And then we going out and I keep my word, they keep their word. But I'm sorry, man. And then, especially dealing with us as a people, you got to put the contract on the table, man. Then you got to, when they don't do right, you got to threaten them by taking them to court in order to force them to do right, which they had the power to do right in the first place and the means to do right. They just, for some reason, we get caught up in this vanity, or we get caught up in this, I don't like you because the other day you was riding in the Ford Explorer, and now you bought you a Porsche SUV. Who do you think you are? That's our material. Who gives a damn? Your word is supposed to be more than what's material. Who cares? I mean, you got a new watch, you got a new chain, you got some new Jordans. Now I'm upset, so I don't want to do the deal no more. Man, that's foolishness. We got to get over that, right? But with the contract with Black America, Cube's plan, and you hear me say it plenty of times, well written. I believe Dr. Claude Anderson assisted in formulating that doctrine, right? Again, black people are in the middle. We want this, right? We want this. So on the table, whether it be Biden or Trump, they're going to say, okay, well, we'll see to that if you allow us to do this. See, that's how the game. Now, what they want in return is the question, and we don't know yet, because we know that Trump looked at it, and we know Biden said he'd look at it after the election. But if he don't win the election, then okay, Trump already looked at it. He's familiar with it. Let's deal, because what I'm trying to say is, with black people, it don't matter who's the president, because hell, we're gonna be compromised regardless of who's in the president. One's gonna do it in one form, the other's gonna do it in another form, but at the end of the day, we still not gonna get nothing. You dig what I'm saying? Unless we put something on the table and hold them to it, and something that's in our best interest. So, I hope you all got the gist of this, because I've been trying to explain this in a certain way, and so these different compromises that we went through over a period of time, I think should do the job right. This show, Verbal Pick Radio, is a different type. This show really is based on universal laws, right? As above, so below, the law of consequences. If you want something, you got to do this to get that. I mean, it's not the typical podcast or YouTube show. We're just trying to get over information so you can make your own best decision on what's best for you, the individual. But you can't make that right decision if you don't know all the players in the game and how the game was created, and the coaches in the game and the owners behind it, and where the money's coming from. And then you have to know their reason for doing what they're doing, and then the Democrats' reasons for doing what they want to do, and then black folks in the middle. You got to know, well, I'm not your ping pong partner. Matter of fact, I'm the ball. Let me get off the table and go create something for myself. Until we get to that understanding, we'll be the pawn, the ping pong ball in the middle, or we'll be forever compromised. Verbal Pick Radio, we're out.